Okay, today class we just want to do a quick review of adding and subtracting, multiplying and dividing fractions. So let's start with adding and subtracting fractions. Okay, the first thing that I came up with was when you talk about adding and subtracting fractions, your denominators, you already know this, they have to be the same. And you always add the numerators only and you keep the denominators the same, right? So let's do some examples with like denominators, okay? All right, so a good example to do with like denominators could be this. We could say, and we probably need to label these, example 1, we could use 2/5 plus 1/5, and that gives us what? 3/5. You're exactly right. So that was pretty easy. We add the top numbers or the numerators and we keep the denominator. And we couldn't do this at all if the denominators weren't the same, but right now we're talking about with like denominators. Okay? All right, so let's look at another example. What if we had 5/11 plus 8/11? Okay, so pause for just a second and see if you can figure out what that is. Okay, so did you get 13? Hang on just a second, sorry. All right, did you get 13/11? That's right. And don't change this to a mixed number. Leave this improper. In algebra, we always like for our fractions to be left in an improper form. This one wasn't improper, so it was okay. All right, so let's look at one more kind of example here. Let's look at example 3. What if we had a negative 7/12 and we had minus 3/12? What would you do with this problem? And if you think that that it's a subtraction problem, it does look like a subtraction problem, but because both of the numbers are negative numbers, that's a -7 and a -3, you still add. So that's going to be a -10/12. Now, what do you think is wrong with this? So there has to be a reason why I would show you this problem, because it looks like it would be just like the other problems where the denominator's the same, and basically looks like a subtraction problem, but I had to end up adding because I had like signs. But what's different about this answer than the other ones? You're right, this one is not in simplest form. So you would need to divide this one by 2 and reduce it to simplest form. So it would really be a -5/6. Okay, so let's talk about, real quick, just make sure we understand that it goes the other way with subtraction too. So if we have, what if we have 2/5, just like the first problem we did right here, and we take away 1/5? Do we do the same thing when we're subtracting? Yes, we do. So you subtract the top numbers and get 1, and you keep your denominator. Okay, so let's put one down here for you to try. What if I had 5/11 take away 8/11? See if you can do that one. Pause and see if you can do that one. Okay, so did you get -3/11? Yes, you should have, because you have 5 take away 8 is a -3, and you keep your bottom number. Okay, so those are some good examples for when your denominators are the same, when they're alike. Okay, but you always have those that do not have like denominators. So let's talk about that just a minute. So our example is 1/4 plus 5/6. And the first thing you should notice is your denominators aren't the same. So you can't just do like these easy problems that we had previously where you just add or subtract the top numbers. The first thing you have to do is we have to change the bottom numbers to the same number. So what does 4 and 6 have in common? So what you're thinking about is what number will 4 divide into that 6 will also divide into. And an easy way to do this is to take your biggest number and start counting by that number and look for the first number that that 4 will go into. 4 won't go into 6, but 4 will go into 12. So since they'll both go into 12, then what you want to do is use 12 as your common denominator. Okay? So you say 4 times 3. So you say 1 times 3. Now why am I doing this? Because you have to say 4 times 3 to get 12 on the bottom. So whatever you do to the bottom number, you have to do the same thing to the top number. Now, this fraction is different. You don't say 6 times 3 to get 12. You say 6 times 2 to get 12. So you're going to say 5 times 2 to get 10 as your top number. Now this problem can be worked just like the previous problems. 3 plus 10 is 13 twelfths. Now, are we worried about this improper fraction? Why, no, we're not. I told you previously that we leave our answers in improper form. So that's good. All right, so let's try another one. Okay, so this was our example. This was our example 6. So this will be our example 7. All right, what if you had 5 6 minus 20 fifteenths? Again, you don't have a common denominator, so I want you to pause. I want you to see if you can work this one yourself. This is a 5, okay? Okay, so we've got 6 and 15, so to get a common denominator for 6 and 15 would be 30. So 6 times 5 is 30, and 5 times 5 is 25. 15 times 2 is 30, and 20 times 2 is 40. 25 minus 40 is a negative 15. Now, can we leave this answer in this form? Is 15 over 30 in simplest form? No, it's not. You can reduce it, right? You can divide by 15 on top and bottom. Okay? So, let's do that, and our final answer is negative 1/2. Now, let's quickly move on and talk about multiplying fractions. Okay? When we multiply fractions, we want to talk about, we just multiply the numerators, okay? So multiply the top times the top and the bottom times the bottom. So the numerator times the numerator and the denominator times the denominator. Okay? So here's an example. Okay, so it is 3/8 times 7/11. So we just multiply top times top and bottom times bottom. So that gives us 21 over 88. Now, I'm pretty sure that this is the right answer and that it won't simplify any because I could not simplify, couldn't cross simplify, cross cancel. The 7 and the 8, they have nothing in common. 3 and 11, they don't have anything in common. Even up and down, and a lot of times we don't talk about that, but you can even cancel up and down. Okay, so another example that might help us do some cross canceling. Okay, our other example is 5/8 times 4/10. Now you can work this example just the same as you did this first example on multiplying. Okay, you can say top times top and get 20. And you can say bottom times bottom and get 80. So numerator times numerator is 20. Denominator times denominator is 80. But can you leave your answer in this form? No, you can't. It's not in simplest form. So we're going to reduce it by 20, and we end with the answer 1/4. Now, if you would rather do this, that's okay, but sometimes you'll get some really big numbers, so you might want to consider cross canceling. So if we rewrite this problem, you can also do this. 5 goes into 5 one time, 5 goes into 10 two times, 4 goes into 4 one time, 4 goes into 8 two times. So then you have 1 times 1 is 1, and 2 times 2 is 4. and it's already reduced in simplest form when you finish. Okay, so let's try one more and let you practice. Okay, so here's your problem. Negative 2/3 times negative 9/4. I want you to pause. See how well you can do this one. Remember what a negative times a negative is. Okay, so quickly, 2 goes into 2 one time, 2 goes into 4 two times. 3 goes into 3 one time, 3 goes into 9 three times. Okay, and then 1 times 3 is 3, 1 times 2 is 2, and a negative times a negative, remember, is a positive. So your answer here is 3/2. Okay, so quickly, we want to finish up. Okay, so our last example is dividing fractions. And the first thing we need to remember is keep, change, and flip. And y'all taught me that from Maddox Middle School. You keep your first fraction, you change the division sign to multiplication, and you flip the second fraction. So remember, KCF, almost KFC, like Kentucky Fried Chicken, but KCF. All right, so our problem that we want to do is negative 7/8 divided by 15/16. Now, let's try that together. We keep our first fraction, we change our division sign to multiplication, and we flip or take the reciprocal of our second fraction. Then, like you learned in the previous problems, cross cancel if it's possible, and it is. 7 and 15, you can't. So then you say negative 7 times 2 is negative 14, and 1 times 15 is 15. And that's a great answer. So let's give you one problem to try. All right, what if you had negative 13/20 divided by 4/5? Pause and try that one. Okay, did you get negative 13/16? If you did, great. Remember, cross cancel. 5 goes into 5 one time, 5 goes into 24 times. Negative 13 times 1 is negative 13. 4 times 4 is 16. And that's the lesson.